This lesson covers installing the DHCP role. DHCP can be installed using Server Manager or via PowerShell. To Server Manager, I would use Manage, add roles and features, click Next. This is a role-based installation. I would select the server I wish to install to. And note your DHCP server will typically have a static IP address. This will not itself use DHCP. I would then select the DHCP server, continue through the wizard, and click Install. I already have it installed on this server. It could also be installed using PowerShell. I can look at what all the Windows features are that are available. If I scroll up, I will see I have DHCP. So there is DHCP server. The name is just DHCP. So I could do install Windows feature. The name would be DHCP. And I could also say to include the management tools. I'm going to do what if, just to show it's already installed. There is no change required here. It's already installed on this box. Once DHCP is installed, I could then go to Tools, and I will launch DHCP. Now, one of the first actions you'll have to do is actually to authorize the DHCP server. This stops any rogue machines trying to offer IP services on your environment. So if a machine is a member of the domain, if it detects the domain, it will not allow itself to start the DHCP service until it has been authorized with Active Directory. To authorize, I can right-click on the name, and I would just select the Authorize option. This shows an unauthorized option as this machine has already been authorized with Active Directory. The next step would to also be check the security groups were created. Now, if I enable DHCP through Server Manager, the required groups are automatically added. There are two groups. There are the DHCP administrators and DHCP users. People who are a member of DHCP users have read-only access to the DHCP server environment. Users who are DHCP administrators have full control of the DHCP service. You would therefore populate these groups with the required users who will perform those various job functions. Next, you would go ahead and actually create your scopes in DHCP. I can create both IPv4 and IPv6 scopes. I can just right-click on the protocol and say New Scope. Here the wizard will guide me through the entire process. I can give the scope a name. So maybe this is my 192.168 scope. I can add in a description as well. I put in the start IP address of the scope. Maybe I'm going to start at 50, and then the end address range for the scope. I can specify a specific length and subnet mask. I can enter in any exclusions. So maybe out of that range of IP addresses, well, some of them are used for something else. Maybe 90 through 100 are assigned to different servers. They have a static IP configuration, so I can't give those out. I can also add a delay. Remember how machines choose if they get multiple offers. It will pick the one that responded first. So there are ways to make DHCP highly available. One of those ways involves splitting the scope between multiple servers, a primary and a secondary, then setting the secondary to have a delay. This means the primary will normally give out the IP addresses. That would have maybe 80% of the scope. The secondary has 20% just in case the primary isn't available. But on that secondary, we'd give it a delay to make sure the primary can offer first. I specify the least duration. If the targets for this scope were regular desktop machines, if they were servers, then the default of 8 days is fine. Really, the machines once given this IP will keep it for maybe years. So I don't need to constantly have the chatter going on at 50%, constantly renewing the IP address. If, however, these were laptops, there were mobile devices coming into an environment, maybe it was a guest network, then I would probably set the lease maybe at 12 hours. So the machines would not keep it by default more than a day. I want to optimize how I give out these IP addresses. I have a certain number of them. I don't want to waste them. I can configure additional options like DNS servers, Win servers. So I can say yes. I want to specify default gateway. I want to specify my parent domain name, particular DNS servers for this particular subnet. Maybe it's got some new ones I could type in here. I would add those. It's going to error. This doesn't actually exist. But notice it does go and do a check. Am I entering valid information in here? It couldn't find it, but I can go ahead and add it anyway. I could enter in wins information. When I activate it, it means it will now be available to give out those IP addresses. I'm not going to activate this scope, but I can go ahead and create it. That's how to add a new scope. You'll see there are the options that I configured in the wizard. I can go ahead and configure additional options. These are all the different settings that are available. I can now delete that scope. I don't need it anymore, and it will remove it from this server. But I'll do that later on. For IPv6, it is exactly the same process. I would right click, say I want a new scope, a name. What is my prefix? Remember, it's going to be something in the /64. The network part is always 64 bits. I can have a preference here, so I might just make something up. I'd put in what is the start and ending IP address, the lifetime for the various leases, and then it would go ahead and create it, and I would then go and add the options afterwards. You can see right here, just say configure options and type in the various values I want. So that's going ahead and creating scopes that can then give IP addresses to machines. If it's being used, I can see what are the leases from that scope. This is the new one we created, so it's empty. If I go to my other scope, I can see all the various machines. I can see when the lease expires, unique IDs, and the actual IP address it was given. I can also create those scopes using PowerShell. I can use the add DHCP server v4 scope, and then it would guide me through the various parameters I need to give in. I would give it a name, a description, the start range, the end range. All of those same options I have through the wizard, I can configure through the PowerShell as well.